Hi, this is Omar at Top 5 E-Bikes, and in this video we're going to be doing a full review of the Magicycle Fat Tire Ebike, one that we think is a direct competitor to the very popular Himiway. We're going to go over the specs of this e-bike, details of our test rides, and then we're going to share our final thoughts on this e-bike. Please subscribe to our channel if you enjoy our content or if you're interested in e-bike content in general. Also let us know if you have any questions or comments. Enjoy the video. Now let's talk about the specs of the Magicycle. It costs $1,600, although there are coupons out there. We have one for $150 off. This bike has a 750 watt motor, 52 volt. It has 86 newton meters of torque, which is a big deal. Also, another big deal is that it's a Shengyi motor, so you actually know who makes this motor. A lot of times you don't know which company is making the motor, but in this case we know, which I think is a positive. It has a decent sized battery, which is a 52 volt, 15 amp hour battery. It comes with mechanical disc brakes. It's obviously a fat tire e-bike. You have a rack that comes with it, integrated lights, both the front and the back. There are two frame options. So this is the step over, but there is a step through. And we'll talk about that later about the different frame options. Assembly wise, it was pretty simple assembly. It's kind of nice that the rack actually came on already attached to the bike, so there wasn't much assembly. It didn't take me long. So all in all, pretty nice bike specs wise, especially for the price, and there are coupons today, so a ton of value with this offering. Now that I went over some of the general specs of this e-bike, let's talk about the test ride. So I rode this e-bike for around 50 miles, and that included a range test. You can see from our footage that we mostly rode it on paved roads, but I actually also took it on some light trails, which was pretty fun because I was able to go over some rocks and some bumps and whatnot, so that was pretty fun. And again, it was just a really fun and enjoyable fat tire e-bike to ride. If I had to focus on one thing that stood out about this e-bike, it's for sure the power of the motor. Like out of the box, this thing is a freaking beast. In addition to the motor, if I had to say one other thing, it's the battery because it has a pretty good range relative to other more expensive fat tire e-bikes. And I'll get to this a little bit later. Speaking of the range, I mentioned that I did a range test where I drained the battery. I had a full battery and I drained the battery using throttle only. And I was able to get almost 26 miles out of the battery. That's pretty freaking good. So if you were using pedal assist only or mostly and then using the throttle sparingly, I could imagine that you could get for sure 40 plus miles out of this battery. So that's pretty good range, and it's really good relative to other more expensive fat tire e-bikes. So again, that's a positive in my book. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the comfort. I rode this bike for almost 26 miles in one shot. So I have a pretty good idea of like how comfortable is this e-bike. There are definitely e-bikes that we've reviewed here at Top 5 E-Bikes where we've said that the saddle or the seat is terrible. And we've even said, if you're going to buy this bike, I would make sure the first thing you get is another seat. That's not the case, I think, with this e-bike. So it's pretty comfortable for a stock seat or saddle. So I think comfort-wise, the seat, the handlebars, to me, were pretty nice or nice enough for an e-bike in this category. So now into the final thoughts of this e-bike. Let me start off with the positives. The first one is the motor. So it's both the power of the motor and then also the fact that it's a name brand motor. This motor is super powerful and you can feel it like right out of the box even with the stock settings. We know that it's 750 watts. We know that there's 86 newton meters of torque, which just those specs alone make it a more powerful motor than other e-bikes in its class and other fat tire e-bikes that are way more expensive. So we knew that, but then this test ride also let me know that in real life, this motor is actually super powerful. I would say, in fact, that for some riders, if you're a new e-bike rider or newer or you haven't ridden bikes in a while, so if you kind of fall into this novice category, I would say that I would even recommend that you actually lower the levels of power because it might be too powerful. And this is definitely not the type of e-bike that I would recommend that you ride with one hand also. So that's another thing that I would mention about it. So again, the power of the motor is one of the big positives. Another positive is the battery size. So when you compare it the battery size of this particular e-bike to other fat tire e-bikes, and I'll link it here in the description. We did a comparison of different fat tire e-bikes, but this particular e-bike has a bigger battery than more expensive e-bikes like the Rad Rover 6 Plus from Rad Power Bikes and the Venton Aventure. So Aventure, sorry for those of you that have posted comments about how I pronounce the name of these bikes, but the Magicycle actually has a bigger battery, so that's another big positive. And then lastly, I would say that this company also will throw in a bunch of gifts. So when I got the bike, there were a bunch of gifts like a hat and some other stuff, an alarm. They've since changed it, so the current, at least at the time that I'm filming this, the gift is includes a bike pump and a rear rack bag, which is kind of nice to get those extras. So, and then lastly, what I'm going to talk about. So those are the positives, but the one thing that you have to mention is the Himiway. Like, how does this bike compare to the Himiway? First off, disclaimer, I've never ridden the Himiway. I don't have a Himiway. But what I can do is there's some other e-bike channels have posted videos of comparisons to the Himiway. And I think in general, the consensus seems to be that the Magicycle has a bigger motor or a more powerful motor, or at least as powerful. Now the question is, do you want to buy the Magicycle or the Himiway? And I think right now with the coupon or with these discounts, the fact that the Magicycle is $14.50, so that's about $250 less than the Himiway. So I would say that the Magicycle provides way more value right now. The biggest negative to going with the Magicycle relative to the Himiway is the fact that the Himiway's been around longer, so from a support perspective, you could potentially get more support from them. Although Magicycle's done a pretty good job of being responsive to customers, so I actually think that you would probably get better service from the Magicycle. All right, we got to talk about the negatives too. There's two big negatives to me. Those are the brakes and then the sizing. Everyone's talked about the brakes. They're terrible. They're not really good brakes, at least what they sent the bikes with. We normally at Top 5 e-bikes, we have to adjust the brakes of bikes because normally when they come out of when you unbox a bike, there's usually slight adjustments you have to make. With this particular e-bike, we did a ton of adjustments and we still couldn't get them right. They still made noise. The stopping power wasn't good. Other e-bike channels have put out videos on the adjustments that you could be doing. I actually looked at Chris's from e-bike products and did that adjustment. Still didn't work. So for those that have done videos on updating the calipers to hydraulic calipers, thank you, because I think that that's probably a cost-effective solution to get more stopping power and then to also have a more comfortable ride without the noise. So again, the brakes are one of the big negatives. The other negative, and this is more of personal, I think, is the sizing of it. I'm 5'11", inseam of around 31 inches. And I think that this bike, the step over frame, is borderline too big for me. And I say that because I couldn't plant my 2 feet on the ground 100% when I was riding this bike. So to me, if I was going to buy this bike, I would probably I would likely get the step through frame. And I would say that they don't have different frame options. It's just the step over and the step through, and that's it. So that to me is a negative from a sizing perspective. Like maybe if you like the midnight blue, then you have to get the step over frame, and maybe you don't want the white one. So that's the other big negative in my opinion. So what's the final verdict on this e-bike? I mean, the thing is, if you're looking for an e-bike, a fat tire e-bike that is affordable and that has a 750 watt motor, this is a really good option. So you're probably thinking about the Himiway or this e-bike, because if you wanted to spend a bit more, then you could get a Rad Rover, or a Juiced, or the Venton bike, which is going to offer you, hydraulic brakes and, maybe other things that you're looking for. But if you're looking in this $1,500 range, around $1,500, this bike provides great value. So I think this is a good option for you if you're looking for a fat tire e-bike that's 750 watts. It's around $1,500. Let us know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you for watching, and again, you should subscribe to Top 5 e-bikes. If you enjoyed this review, please subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment, visit us at top5ebikes.com or some of our social media accounts. Thank you.